Give it a go. Why not? What do you think?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day. Now prepare to experience the most outrageous man on radio.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
This is insane.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
You betcha. Thank you very much. Spilled the coffee 2 consecutive days in a row on my $5 off Ace reward card. You know, but you have to spend like $35 or more on regularly priced merchandise. It's like a semi-scam. The coffee is extremely hot. The inconsistencies in that, don't follow logic. And here we have Don Quixote. The title of this show is We Suffer in Worlds We Create in Our Own Minds. And the opening chat is Think Don Quixote and you'll have a much better understanding of the world today. Now, I don't know if you were taught literature, read books in school. I talk to people in their 40s and, talk about utopias and different things like that. This not related to Quixote. But, and I say, did you ever read B.F. Skinner, Or sometimes people will refer to Thoreau, but I don't know if they really read Thoreau, It's like people are pretty good at, somehow getting a synopsis, or it's like in school, before the internet, it was such and such for dummies, or those yellow books. So instead of reading the book or the play or whatever it was, you would read this, synopsis. We're right in the middle of coal truck time. You could see those trucks going. Barrel ass and look at them. Feeding that electric plant, which in turn drives your electric car. I know, I'm not going to keep saying that. It's become old hat, as they say. I was surprised to see in a couple different videos, two as a couple, yesterday that people referred to soldiers people going over to Ukraine as cannon fodder. And I thought I was like just drawn on some old book I read from World War II, World War I type of thing. The idea of soldiers just being cannon fodder for the elite. But nothing's really changed. And as crazy as the Don Quixote stories, plural, are, but the principal concept, this, if I hadn't said it before, this is like a Picasso's, kind of just scribble scrabble of Quixote and Sanchez, I guess. Like the guy's name, Sanchez. And on their quest, right? And then did they make a play? It was a play, I think, a Broadway play, right? And a dream, the impossible dream, right? But really, it was like, it's a tragic story, basically, and, I'm using this, this is a free flow of consciousness show, and I'm using this as a, kind of a jumping off point. But this idea, that I have below this title that you would have brought you here if it did bring you here. As of now, no one is here. We're broadcasting live 5:13 a.m. on the 23rd of March in the calendar year 2022. We suffer in worlds we create in our own mind. And so, isn't that what's going on? If you think of the Don Quixote story, if you really have an open mind, if you really take it, take things and view it in the sense of the characters, that people take on through social media, and in real life, because what is really the difference, right? Yeah, I have to laugh. I always use Tim Pool, the cap guy, is my whipping boy, in these videos. But it's like his podcast, I guess his YouTube thing is Timcast IRL, so in real life. But it's not in real life. He's on social media. He's on the internet. Right? You cannot have realism on something that is not real, right? You cannot have realism when there's a microphone involved and lighting and look at this show. This isn't Tony Caravan live in real life, right?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Even that, it's a sound thing. It's a sound bite, sound clip. It's Oh, no. That's right. I'm revealing the reality of the world to people. But I don't know, this might be a little bit heavy and, just getting into this, just if you could wrap your head around this. It's really important. And it's why the show's so unpopular, because people don't want to know the truth or have insight into the thought process. They don't want to see those trucks barrel-assing up this neighborhood street on their way to an electric power plant, because they want to believe that their car is being run on electricity. They don't want to know that electricity comes from natural gas or coal or something like that. They don't want to know that windmills have killed, untold numbers of birds, perhaps millions, destroyed migratory patterns, and that millions of windmills themselves now are in disrepair and rotting, and that only fossil fuels can fuel the heavy equipment needed to repair, upgrade, replace broken parts, put in a next generation generator or whatever they're talking. Do you see what I mean? In other words, they've littered the landscape of the United States. Once beautiful country, America the Beautiful. Used to drive on that beautiful highway system that Eisenhower was pretty much spearheaded. And you see these fans in the sky. Fans, giant fans that do nothing. They don't lower people's electric bill. They don't power electric cars. The contribution of solar and wind power is so minute. And there's no room left, barely any room left to put any more without, it's insanity. And that's what I'm trying to say here. Mass insanity has infected the planet, and particularly the former United States. And if you take offense to me using the word former, you tell me if this is the same place it was 30 years ago, 35 years ago. person 40 years old, for example, maybe 45 years old, right? Wasn't even around during in other words, the Vietnam War was already over. The civil rights movement ended. The feminist movement, all those things ended. They were, they came to a conclusion. In the case of Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement, all that stuff, they all successfully ended. His movement was so successful that towards the end, he had turned into an anti-war activist in most of his speeches, which is ultimately why probably it was J. Edgar Hoover that had him killed. J. Edgar Hoover had arrested him, was trying to get him to commit suicide in jail, was blackmailing him, sending him letters. This is public knowledge. And they still have J. Edgar Hoover. Imagine these FBI agents that go to work in a building that says J. Edgar Hoover on it. He was one of the most corrupt guys in the world. Or imagine people who would go work, for the CIA, and they know that the CIA killed Bobby Kennedy and was involved in the JFK assassination. You think that's conspiracy theory? It's not. And that they've and like that person in Canada didn't understand the term banana republic. That they basically just were involved in coups all over, south of the border, right? Extraordinary rendition, was that what they called it? Waterboarding. And they called this all in the name of as if they were preserving our freedom. It's like the wars were that, the troops were cannon fodder and they were told that they were being patriots and they were saving us. But that was just mind messing, turning people's brains, putting people's brains in blenders. Everything is wrong. I see no one took advantage of my 20% off or a free shipping sale. Yeah. Interesting how people are. Nobody gives a shit. Well, anyway, before I get into something too heavy, I'm going to take this down and I'm going to show you these are two little minor things. All right. Number one, this would be, I guess you would call a minor annoyance. All right. I'll just blow this up for the hell of it. Aren't you tired of trying to log on to a site and have to deal with I'm not a robot? And in this instance, it asked you how many chimneys. That's what this one was. Select all squares with chimneys. If there are none, click skip. Who even reads that because you don't know, and it's got these little aired things, and so, the average person, some senior citizen, somebody who knows nothing about how a house works. For all they know, those, exhaust, actually they're toilet air, pipes, whatever you want to call them. I'm not a plumber. But to them, that's like a chimney. It could be a chimney, if you had if you were in a cabin, that would be the full extent of your chimney. But whatever the case may be, sometimes you have to go through 3 of these because they hide them even. So it bears the question, so is AI becoming so good at reading these things, right? that they have to make them almost difficult for even humans to figure out. I mean, I swear, you get the ones with traffic lights, and it's like I don't see any other traffic lights on there, and then it shoots up to another one, show fire hydrants, and it's like unless there's some microscopic fire hydrant somewhere way in the back of some image hidden behind a car, I just clicked on all the squares with the fire hydrants. Now it's ridiculous. The internet's broken, man. See, I always push this back to the banks. The banks don't necessarily use those, like most banks. A lot of those are for like secondary type of things where there's data, but it's somehow related to balances of something or other. I'm sorry, I'm still tired. I get up at 11 o'clock. I'm still dealing with the cat. I had to like come downstairs and give him some cat food. I mean, he's got some kind of prescription food. He won't eat it. Later on this morning, I have to give him some medicine for his thing, which he doesn't like. And I hope to heck he's like swallowing the stuff and not spitting it out. But I mean, I kind of slept 8 hours. I'm just, groggy and weird. That's 5:25 a.m. But the other thing is this I wanted to show you. See, this is this homemade pond I made. And that I was talking about yesterday. And how I had to take the weed whacker off to the left, close to where my eye is. There was a hole in the ground, a rat hole. And that's where there's like some broken glass on this thing. It used to be a black, it's a raised bed, but it's like had these old, I found them in the basement. I guess they were the former basement windows, and they just left them there when they replaced them, Actually, they're like kind of boarded up because I have like where I have the vent for my washer, my dryer. It's just solid boarded up. But I think that might have been an ancient window. Well, anyway, I was using you could see I'm using that plastic to cover the raised bed. I have radishes in there. But anyway, forget about that broken piece of glass and stuff. That's just been sitting there. I never even knew that. There was grass higher than that all around this pond. It almost looks kind of weird. But when it had all the grass growing, tall grass around it, it kind of looked like a real pond, out in nature. Like some kind of water, you came upon some kind of water thing. And you could see I have this solar little thing in the middle that like is a fountain, like just shoots up like a fountain. And I also have an aerator in there to keep the water. It looks kind of green and mossy, but it's actually when you're up close to it, that's the bottom of it. It's clean, it's clear water. The birds wash themselves, but they drink in there mainly. But so I don't know what I'll do now because I guess I don't want that grass growing again because that was a thing. And I saw the rat yesterday at the feeder and I saw 2 rats. And I saw one messing around the feeder and it was for the longest time and I was tired of waiting. And it ran down the path and turned the corner to go in the hole that you cannot see. It's no longer there. I cut down the grass, filled it with soapy water if there was anything living down there to try to force it out. If there was an exit hole, nothing that came out of anywhere. And I think it was just a cache of food, or it was a potential nest that was building. It was a big hole. And then I poured mortar in it, filled it up. Or that might have been when I still had some concrete left. I don't know. And it turned the corner to go in that hole, and then it realized it wasn't there, and it came back up the path, and then it took a hightail to the left and went right into the witches, the neighbor neighborhood witch into her yard. And then the other rat, which left earlier, that was by the bird feeder, went down along the fence line and somehow disappeared over into the neighbor's yard. So at least I know, it's not comfort, but I know the rats have a nest somewhere in the neighbor's yard, not my yard. But anyway, this little pond is a favorite hangout of the birds and stuff like that. And I like having it there. And with the fountain in the summertime, it's nice to hear that water and stuff. The woman that burns black plastic bags and styrofoam in her backyard. And she's got a pile of like brush and different piles laying back there. And yesterday was like a cloudy day that was like, wasn't really raining, but sometimes a little bit of some sprinkles come down or whatever. It would have been the ideal day for her to burn that stuff, right? Nobody's outside. But I know what's going to happen. The next sunny day, if we get a sunny day when I'm laying down, she'll look out her like top floor window and she'll see me lounging in my lounge chair, when she probably masturbates, right, at the window. And she'll come down after she's had her orgasm. I'm sorry if this offends people, but, reality, that's what I'm saying. The real world is the real world. Real world is the language, okay, is the talk, the way we talk, the things we know, the things we really think about, the things that we understand, life. Not Tim, whatever his name, IRL, you know what I mean? Or the Joe Rogan show, right? PewDiePie playing video games, right? The YouTube millionaires. Boasting and talking about all the things they're buying and the land and all that stuff. All I could say to you is congratulations. But she'll come out while I'm in the sun trying to soak up vitamin D during that, after maybe I've worked hard in the garden. So I'm tired. So I want to rest. And I'm taking advantage rather than come in the house dirty. Because when I come in the house, I want to basically if I'm doing gardening work, I basically want to take the clothes off, throw them in the washer with whatever other, go upstairs, hop in the shower, take a shower. By the way, I got my shower drain cleared for now, so I hope it's clear. Take a shower and then take the towels and stuff from upstairs, bring them down, do a load of wash, put some clean clothes on and just chill out and, watch some YouTube or relax or do some kind of thing. So I want to spend my resting period, it's like a multitask, but it's a fun, enjoyable experience. After I've rested, I like to sit on my lounge chair, which I've showed you 1,000 times in my backyard. All right. My lounge chair up there by the door to my garage, which is offset from my house. Remember, you're looking at this yard from my house, second floor house view. Just like this thing here. Well, let me just get this grow room out. Just like this image of this witch is actually taken from the same window to the right. Her. But I'll be sitting on that chair after having a productive day, working my garden, pruning things, planting things, picking things. And I'll be laying there at prime sun time, trying to soak up some vitamin D. And the witch will start burning. And basically it'll force me in my house. And she'll do that intentionally. Right now, there's like 3 to 4 little piles of like brush, raked stuff from her yard or something like that she's going to, and in the thing itself right now is something she could have just lit a match and burned. But she'll probably end up throwing a plastic, bag with styrofoam crap on top of it, too. But she'll wait till I'm out there. And that smoke will go all over to my house. And if it's that kind of nice day, that means I have to do that I said I've related before. Run into the house, close the kitchen window, close the bathroom window, close the back bedroom window. So forget about circulation, getting fresh air in my house in the spring or summer. And if I want to take a shower, I want to close the bathroom window, So half the time I end up having to put a dehumidifier. I have a dehumidifier on wheels at least, but the thing doesn't work. It's older and it doesn't work as good as it used to. I have to use a dehumidifier instead of opening the window, because if I open the window, I'm going to get this smell of like burnt tires. That's what burning plastic bags and styrofoam smells like, because it's the same kind of thing. Which, just in a quick aside, I mean, this shows free flow of consciousness. Accept it. Those things everything we have is made from so-called fossil fuels. I call them organic, but it's through chemistry that they alter. There's a very small, more crude oil, right? Fossil fuels, as you call them. Okay. But to me, it's organic plant matter. All right. It's organic. And it's plant, which in term, the CO2, any CO2 that comes from it is for, benefit of plants. 0.004%. But, what's going on with these, when I talk about this mass insanity stuff, all right? Do they understand, these people that by 2030 we're going to eliminate all fossil fuels, right? I mean, we'll just use the word fossil fuels because, it's like me using the word corporatocracy, when I point out this kind of thing. It's like, it's useless. Some people call it a technocracy, and I appreciate that they have that understanding that it's not a government. All right. But, when I say corporatocracy, people just can't understand. Pardon me. Eyes itchy. They just can't understand this idea that the media and politicians are controlled and manipulated by the corporatocracy. And they think, oh, that's some kind of conspiracy thing or whatever. You're out there and, far out. And it's like, no, don't, people in the media make money from commercials. Why are there YouTube millionaires? Because they get money from commercials from YouTube. Why are there cable TV and newspaper and all magazines and all these other why are people make money? Because of the advertisements. So the media is basically a puppet of the corporatocracy. And well, who's the corporatocracy? The advertisers, right? Which includes political campaigns. When you donate to a campaign, you are basically paying the salary of the people you hate, because, I mean, I don't really hate anybody. I just, but I mean, you do. You hate certain people on certain cable channels and TV stations. But when an opposition party, which you donate to, that money goes primarily, I mean, some of it goes to their, their internal bureaucracies and some of their logistics. But the lion's share of the money from your little donation goes to pay the salary of people that you despise. Because it goes to put a commercial on a channel where no one who's watching that is going to change their mind because of that commercial. They don't care. They don't care if there's some talk about some laptop or something like that. Like people are talking now like it might have changed the election. No, it wouldn't. People are true believers. Do you understand that? It's the same with the politicians. The politicians, The bills are written by the lobbyists, big tech, big pharma, big ag, military contractors, right? The financial industry, which encompasses like everything from real estate to Wall Street to the Federal Reserve central bank system to you name it. Like, you just don't get that it's all hypocrisy for profit. I talk about this every day, and that's not the main issue today in today's show. All right? It's mass insanity has infected the planet. And it's the idea that we suffer in worlds that we create in our own minds. The average view duration right now is 30 minutes, yet my concurrent viewers, chat rate, and views are 0. So someone or something, some AI, algorithm, or an individual from Google or some agency that's afraid, of being exposed or something, of the truth being out, is monitoring this entire broadcast since its inception. All right. Today's inception. They're saying, what else does this guy know? Right? What else does this guy know? They're not showing up in the statistics, which means they have to be government or they have to be internal, Google, Alphabet, YouTube, somehow within that corporate structure. Somebody who has that ability to do that, right? To be in undetected, right? Now the counter has just stopped. It was counting actively, and the counter just stopped when I said that. Interesting. But they may have an algorithm or a way, a piece, a line of code that just stopped the counter, right? Because I just was on to them. But yes, basically for the entire duration of this program, this was being actively monitored by an individual or an algorithm of some kind. But not showing up in the stats. Isn't that fascinating? Just looked at the clock. It just went up another second at the duration time. So they're still there. Something's going on. I don't care. Like I said, I'm one of the people that actually is like when they say, when people talk about privacy, is that I am of that, that mindset that if you don't have any, what are you afraid of? If you've got nothing, if you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to hide. See, because I already know how much monitoring is going on. I know that every transaction, every word I say, everything I post, every keyboard, every time I delete something, backspace on a keyboard, I know that's all being monitored. I know that the satellites can see through houses. I know that they could pull a van a half a block away and they could see through your walls. That technology all exists now. Right? They could hear inside. They could activate, any camera or just tap into the cameras. They have audio. This is old news, like they used to say, old hat, right? I mean, was it Samsung or one of those companies, the TVs, they found out there was a microphone in. This is before the TVs had anything to do with, like, they were smart, before the smart TV, that they were able to, I had microphones in people's home TVs. There was no reason to, because the TV was incapable of performing any task, such as like a FaceTime or a Skype or whatever it is, Zoom. There's a dozen different of these things. And so, we know that. Yeah, it's still counted up, 34 seconds. it's not counting in real time. What it's doing is it's just counting in minutes. So they like drop that so that it wouldn't be so obvious. But it's weird. I guess that's in case I turned a camera on it. See, the things they hide from the average person is laughable. And so when I say mass insanity's infected the planet, it's true. And everyone's on this, it's this Don Quixote, insanity. Now, people have taken on these roles, IRL, in real life, TikTok. What is, like, you see what I mean? And these people, they dress these ways. They do this stuff, right? It's all a scam. It's like I was getting back to when I showed this, because I don't want to waste this one either. It's this whole idea. Okay, so here you have these financial institutions or things that collect money, keep ledgers, whatever, are funded by government. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's some kind of banking financial system. Something to deal with finance through the internet. And they are constantly being hacked. And some of us, and like I say, I've gone through a couple of issues where one I was hacked by Ukrainians many years ago, and I, basically got my money back because I tracked them down, using publicly available satellite, and information and IPs and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get into. I don't do that. So I'm not a hacker. I mean, I was just a computer person that, started in the early days. So I knew how everything worked and I knew how to access things and find things. A lot of that stuff they've already taken off the internet. But I tracked these people down to the building, got right into the computer, emailed them and said, return my money instantly. I said, I know where you are. I see you. And I appeared on their screen. And I said, if you don't, I'm going to have a strike team, in your building within seconds. And my money was returned. I think I'm the only guy in the world ever to get money out of those. Corrupt. So you got to remember, Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Yeah. They've always been. And that's the home of hacking, not Russia. It's always been Ukraine, right? They're corrupt as hell. And it's coming out, and their ties to this current administration are just unbelievable, right? That oil company. I mean, these people, people actually did go to jail, which is strange in a country that corrupt. Look at, coal trucks back and forth. A coal truck just went up before. Here comes one. Oh, they're going back and forth. Refill. It's going to get cold, I think, this weekend. I didn't check the weather. I guess I could check my weather. My weather's your weather.
The Weather Watch forecast.
I'm not going to be able to show you a map right now, but it's pretty much going to rain all day here, which means I'm going to be stuck up in the attic playing whack-a-mole with, remind me to tell you about it. Anyway, I'll be playing whack-a-mole with leaks. Tomorrow, thunderstorms. Friday, rain. Saturday, thunderstorms. And then Sunday, snow. 30 degrees in the daytime. That's below 0 centigrade. Right? Celsius, I mean. And below 0 Fahrenheit. 18 degrees at night, overnight. Sunday. Now, that's going to be a lot of fossil fuels because guess what? Windmills and solar panels don't drive that kind of heat in the upper third, even the upper half of the U.S. So that forecast, that's your
weekend weather.
So beware. And you know what? it's early enough. It's Wednesday that you could probably get 2-day delivery from Amazon if you go to Great Solar Stuff, and you could get a power backup because the power is probably going to go out in some places. Yeah. Frozen tree, rain for 4 days. Wet trees, right? Heavy branches. Then this flash freezing. Those branches falling down over this like antiquated power grid system that's just totally failing right and left all over this country. It's too big, right? Not too big to fail. It's too big to fix. That's why they got rid of the Build Back Better slogan now. Now, if you get one of these things, okay, and you think this is no infomercial here. This is me trying to help you because I don't make any money on this. I'm not monetized. You get one of these kinds of things, this Jackery thing. You go to my Great Solar Stuff. I have a really nice one on there. It's a different company than Jackery. I forget the name of it. It's like 1,000 watt or 18 watt or something pretty, and has like a nice boost on it. So you could put something on there that has there's a lot of things like power tools or even refrigerators and stuff sometimes have like this. When you first turn it on, it has a big pull of wattage. And there's one on there I have now that can like accept like that big surge. But you can plug this into your house and charge it in advance. You could plug it into a car or truck and charge it in advance, or you could put it on a portable, foldable solar panel, because that's the kind of stuff I'm into. Portable stuff, something easy. You don't need to nail something to your roof. Who even can get to the roof? If I could get to my roof, I wouldn't have a leaky roof. I'd have gone up there and patched the holes, but I can't. It's like 4 stories up, and nobody wants to do it. So today would be the day to order that stuff. Go to rockflux.com. There's a link, or just go direct to greatsolarstuff.com. It's like I don't make a fortune on any of these things. Look at the tiny solar panel to the left of that chair, that I'll be chased away from this lady burning tires, basically, over my mini greenhouse. You see that tiny little thing? I don't think I paid more than $50 for that. That's just a tiny little solar panel. But you can get yourself one of those. But it's mass insanity. Yeah, for average view duration is 42 minutes. So whomever, or whatever is actually today's show is being completely monitored. Isn't that interesting? It's like, people don't even understand that aspect of but like I say, I don't really give a shit about privacy because the truth is the truth. And the people in charge, I was thinking about this before I got up today too. I was laying in bed with the cat. Poor thing, Oh, I hope he recovers. I thought he was going to die the other day. But been to the vet twice. Got prescription stuff. I mean, I've done everything I can do, and I'm doing everything I can do. And I will continue to. And I'm trying to comfort him. Spent the entire day with him yesterday, basically. And he was just down here. I don't even know if he's still here or not. He might have left, but he was hanging out with me here. So, trying to comfort him and all that stuff. Make him feel good. But so yesterday I'm out in the backyard, and while I was snapping this photo, this image of, not the witch, this image of my pond that now looks kind of bizarre because it looks like naked. Like I say, you have to imagine what this looked like, with the rocks, but in all that area, it looks like straw. It's not straw. That's just like weed whacked grass down to the ground, but it was, like I say, it was higher. It was 2 feet or more higher. And it really made that whole thing look just like, something out in nature. But while I was snapping that picture, something caught my eye to the left, and I have these little gullies, like grooves in the grass. And I thought it was a mole, right? That was my first thought, because I've seen moles before in other places. That they usually kind of just work that way. But when I looked closely, it looked more like a mouse. And then I thought, that's not really a mouse. This is a small thing now, not like one of those big rats. See, the rats that the neighbor has are big rats. All right. And I thought, no, these are small rats, because there's like four major types of rats. And there's the big ones that are over in the witch's yard, nested somewhere, either in, her house or somewhere on the other side of that fence, which I've just proceeded to try to block every possible hole. But I see where they're going, so there's one more whack-a-mole hole I can fill. I mean, there's more other places I have to build up further down, because one ran down. I'm not sure where that got through. So, like I said yesterday, this is an ongoing process. But now I saw that underneath, like the grass line, so I guess the grass froze, the snow was there. The grass is, I have a push mower. I don't use an electric mower. I have an electric mower, but it died. Just my luck. Somebody gave it to me. So somebody gave it to them. Pretty new, expensive. One of those probably cost $1,000 frickin' bucks. You charge it too. It wasn't like you ran it on a wire. So real nice electric mower. And I was just mowing with it and just stopped working. Tried charging it, blah, blah, blah. There's a guy in the alley to fix his mowers. He took the top off, knows engines and stuff like that, was looking at it. He goes, man, I can't figure out what the heck's wrong with that. He goes, like, maybe the engine, the brushes on the rotor or something. I don't know what it was. Something weird like that. He goes, I think it's fried. So it's like, which is the most expensive thing on the lawnmower. So now it's another thing in my garage. Like, I think I have 2 weed whackers sitting in there, because I don't have a dumpster, and you can't throw out these kind of appliances stuff. The garbage people, they don't do that. Now, I don't know if they have a day where they take stuff like that. And I have to look out for that. But, in today's world, it's like the time I put out my garbage and it was there the next day. There was nowhere on the website from the garbage company or anywhere that they weren't collecting garbage on whatever goofy holiday or something. Like, it wasn't an official holiday. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it's not worth getting into. So now I have, somewhere these tiny little mouse type rats, or at least one, has got these grooves underneath. Now, I guess once you get a lot of rain, I mean, I'm not going to do it today in this week, especially since we're going to get a freeze up. But those kind of things I worry about finding some way in, that could find some way into my house. So that's another reason why I got to get a couple bags of concrete, quick setting concrete, because I basically have to build a kind of an angled thing of concrete around the entire perimeter of my entire house, basement of my house. So there's no bug or mouse or mini rat or anything can get in. I was in my basement 2 days ago, and there was nothing down there, any signs of anything that, like any holes or anything, because it's a stone wall basement with a concrete floor, so you can see. And like I say, the windows are, well, once windows are mostly like kind of super boarded up. You know, you couldn't even kick through them. In fact, the one of the windows that's in the closest that could have had a potential where there still is a window. I've taken efforts to put like boards that prevent anyone from, even getting there to kick at it or try to break in, or they couldn't squeeze through. My place is pretty secure. I've got alarms, motion detectors, video cameras, the whole 9 yards. I'm into that kind of thing. I know what's going on. I even know how to like backtrack, like this person that's this either algorithm or person's following me. I just set up a program that's basically tracking that right now in the background. They're not even aware of. See, the thing about people who do things, when you've been on the internet, when you've been working with computers for 40 some years, when I was on the internet 35 years ago, the chances are that the people who are designing the software and stuff, remember, if they're in their 40s, they were like maybe 10 years old when I was already on the internet. So you know what I mean? And there wasn't really an internet for the general public then. And when I used to do my expedition coverage and stuff, I was using like Hughes satellites, type of things that people used out on oil rigs or like government used, or sat phones that, special forces type of operations and, that kind of thing. But, you have to remember one thing people don't understand is that the so-called military-industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, if you just want to call them military contractors, that these are all public companies. Like, you've heard of Lockheed Martin or Martin Marietta, or you know what I mean? Like, these are actually businesses that you can do business with. At least you could 35 years ago, 25 years ago, right? So, all that technology was not classified, right? So if you wanted to buy a satellite, I had a satellite set up, a portable satellite setup that we used to broadcast from the Himalayas, the North Pole, the Amazon, and Antarctica. Okay? I mean, these are the most remote regions on the planet. Think about that. Himalayas, North and South Poles, and the Amazon rainforest. That's why I say I know things. If you've seen what I've seen with these eyes, right? You know. But we had a system, and I say we, it was really me, because I had a problem to solve, and I told you, I've always been a problem solver. So the problem before me was, how do I get video, live coverage, right, from somebody climbing a mountain in the Himalayas, right? How do I get a dispatch, right, like this? Let's see, where is that one? Come on. Show. Why does it bother me when I can't find these things? I know it's somewhere at the top. I just played it not too long ago. Friday. Let's see if it's here.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
I'll just keep you interested. Where is this thing? Right. Okay. It would have to have been... Here it is.
Hi, this is Casa on the Toyo OU expedition. We've, in less than a week, left Kathmandu, experienced the craziness of the crossing of the Chinese border. We've gone from low jungle waterfall lands up into the high Tibetan plateau. We're sitting in the desert now. and looking at a blue sky day. The team's doing great, and we'll keep you updated. Thanks. Bye.
So the question is, you could hear the wind in the background and stuff like that. How the hell did I do that 20-some years ago? Over 20 years ago, actually. Right? This is before the smartphone, right? Before any of this, anything. We were using like satellite phones and for video, we were using these portable used satellite setups that were only the size of like a laptop. And you could set this thing up and you can hook it up and into a laptop, which were primitive in those days, and tie into the internet. And the thing about it was we were getting really strong connections because we were like hooking in through the satellites. But this was, like I say, this wasn't like classified government information material or anything weird like that. I'm getting close to tracking down the person. We're closing in on them. They have no idea. They think they can see, but they can't see me because like I said, I was doing this before they were born. Right. And so, no, this was publicly available equipment. It's just that the average public didn't know about it. 99.9999999% of the people on the planet didn't know this stuff existed. This is the stuff that basically, if you were on a rig, out, an oil rig or someplace, or you're doing some, out in some remote area, figuring out, where you're going to build some kind of thing or whatever, this is how how the big guys communicated. And of course the government would use that stuff too. But like I say, it wasn't like the government stuff. It wasn't DARPA developed stuff. This just came out of, in this case, it was used satellite. Now, you can get used satellite service now for internet and things like that, but this wasn't that. This was like a portable system that tied into, And so we had sat phones. That was through a different company, our sat phones. Like when we used to do just voice dispatches. But when we did video and we tied into a computers and video cameras and stuff like that, we used this used portable satellite system. You just fit it in a backpack, man. It didn't weigh hardly anything. Like I say, it was like kind of like a little bit fatter than a laptop. So you had that and a laptop and a sat phone, and I'd get the call, "Hey, we're ready to broadcast." And I just turn on my equipment, tie into all this stuff, right? And we were doing this stuff. The 90s. The 90s. Like I say, so people don't understand technology. They don't understand that today similar things exist that people like me won't be talking about for another 10 years if the U.S. is not going to survive. That's the thing you have to get through your head. In other words, the grid's not going to last. This whole idea of 2030, this is why I'm saying this is mass insanity's infected the planet. There's people out there that actually have drank this Kool-Aid and somehow believe, I don't know how. Like, were they taught anything in school? No. Because if you had a rational thinking mind of any kind, or if you were taught anything, like the 6th grade education, they're telling you that the education department itself is saying that 1/5 of the people coming out of high school can't read. When you tie that into the adults, it's like with government lowballed statistics, as I always say, because the government always lowballs. It's just like they lowball inflation. They say inflation is 7.9%, but inflation is actually anywhere from 25 to over 100% inflation right now, depending on what the item is and what part of the country you're in. All right? But, the Department of Education, and I think it's the NCES or some they just love all these alphabet, type of agencies they have. Well, even they admit that between the people graduating from like high school who can't read to adults, that if you put those two numbers together, that's something upwards of 40%, literally probably around half the people in the United States are functionally illiterate. Functionally illiterate. That's and that's split between adults and like people, young adults, people just, on the verge of entering, the so-called workforce or becoming, whatever. And so forget about the children who know nothing and the numbers they represent. You see what I mean? So when you include that, obviously a, fifth grader is functionally illiterate, not because there's something wrong with them, just because they just don't know, right? They're a child. These children come home, third graders, fifth graders or whatever. Mommy, the planet's in trouble. You can't do that. I'm going to have to report you to my teacher or something, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's more than half the population of the United States is functionally illiterate because they're either the bona fide ones listed on, through the various government agencies, which you can research this yourself. I mean, you have to really read through these things and look at the documents but they come out right and say it. They show you the numbers. You'll see 21% here, 19% there. I'm not making these numbers up. Just go. .gov sites. Remember, you want to know something about what I'm talking about, make sure the site... See, they're freezing me right now. There's a spin... Yeah. See, this is the idea. This is the whole problem with the truth. And the average view duration has just gone to a dash. All right? Yeah. Just when I was ready to they just figured out I just was ready to catch them. Man, I'm telling you, you have no idea. Everything you know is wrong. You don't know what you don't know. If you could see what I could see with these eyes. But go to .gov sites if you want to find something. Don't go viewing some Tim IRL or Joe Rogan guest. Right, or whatever, any internet stuff. Don't go to any site, somebody opining, right? Because it's all lies. Like I told you, when I had health issues, I went to one site. I just looked at something. I was going to bring it in. I should have brought it in. It's like, according to like the food pyramid, the government nutrition, what they tell you is a balanced diet. Everything on that list is completely what will, I've been told for someone who has a gallstone problem, liver gallstone type of thing, even kidney stones. Everything on that list is stuff I shouldn't eat, the way they're saying. They say go heavy on the grains and flours and cereals and stuff. I mean, it's crazy. That show isn't going to be about nutrition, so I'm not going to go in the other room and grab that. We'll talk about that sometime in the coming shows. They actually put and you don't know what I'm talking about, but what it's so funny. These people, they just don't understand it. So the technology, first of all, we have mass insanity. People have no idea of the technology of the day. In other words, the legitimate technology, because they don't know these companies, right? They don't know what companies are doing. They don't know that you can order things from companies. Geeks. Whatever. People, scientists. I'm a scientist. I experiment with things. You can get things, right? Legitimately, right? Like I say, that's what I try to tell you about information. It's like people who are afraid of the government or, privacy and are getting these stupid they're paying monthly fees to hide their IP address. It's like, who do you think you're hiding from? No one. You're not hiding from anybody. Do you understand? It's like there's a signal that comes out, all right? And a signal coming in, right? And they're tracked. They're trackable, traceable. You can't change it, right? That little box. See, what happens is, forget what happens in the box. It's the idea that there's internet coming into your house, right? Or on your cell phone. It's like the system that the Federal Reserve is planning to use for their crypto. In other words, it's going to be similar to like the serial number on a dollar bill. All right? A unique number. And you see those coal trucks? Like, people just don't know that. They don't understand that. And that's this mass insanity that's infected the planet. If you have companies that are worth $1 trillion, like the pharmaceutical industry, but you still have 40,000 people in the U.S. dying of ailments that are treatable, preventable, and in many cases curable, wouldn't that be the number one scandal of all time? Well, guess what? 40,000 people have been dying every week for decades in the U.S. More than died in the Middle Eastern wars and all that stuff. And approximately 2,000 people a week are murdered in the United States. And again, like I say, these are government statistics divided by 12, okay? And rounded off. Okay, so these are approximate numbers based on government statistics. The 40,000 a week statistic that I'm citing is the CDC's causes of death, annual causes of death in the U.S. So that's a .gov site, CDC, even though the CDC is loosely, basically privately funded as well. So that's another thing people don't understand. But it's still, it's the CDC.gov, right? Now, why would we be worried about a corrupt country like Ukraine, all right, when every week 40,000 American citizens are dying and 2,000 are being murdered? Did you think the news media, if they cared, if they weren't the puppets of the corporatocracy that's making a profit on war-profiteers, don't you think the media and politicians would be worried about those 40,000 a week constituents that are dying, or those 2,000 people a week that are being murdered? and that our police force and our great and glorious J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, people in that building, can't solve 2,000 murders a week? Think about that. And you're going to send money over, does all these things, right? Trick or tweet for UNICEF. It's like, right, give to the Bill and whatever, Melinda Gates. She's divorced him. I guess she found out seen some of his private papers, or found out the crap he's really up to, and said, I can't put up with this anymore. Because she certainly doesn't look like neither of them look like the type that had an affair. And they're old enough that, like, irreconcilable differences, and you make it as a marriage that long, you just stay together. Worst case to worst, you have separate bedrooms or separate houses. I'm sure they own multiple houses. One of them lives in the beach house or the house in the country. Another one lives in the condo somewhere or something. That was a pretty fishy divorce, concept. But, like, I don't know if this seems all over the place, because I'm jumping between my personal trials and tribulations, the stuff I'm going through, leaky roof, rats in the yard, mowing stuff down, and then jumping into talking about, like, some crazy thing going on in Ukraine and whatever the hell overseas, and then Americans dying, and then technology that you have no idea of, but that's not basically classified, because it's just stuff that you can buy off the shelf, order online legally from American companies, and as an American, And I just happened, as a scientist, like I say, was able to pull together, do the research and experiment with various pieces of equipment and get them to work in a way that no one had put them together before. And I was broadcasting video from remote places on the earth. And my video was better than the network video. The networks were using satellite phones, but they would basically have a still picture of some guy over in the Middle East, and he was talking on a satellite phone. This is back in the 90s or the late 80s or something like that. They just didn't understand the technology enough, but they were multi-million-dollar companies, before multi-millionaires became multi-billionaires. But back then, remember, the stock market was only down to, I think in the early 90s was like 5,000, if it was that. Right now it's like, 30-some, or bubble it around 30. We're heading for a stock market crash. It's way overpriced. Real estate's out of control. They'll either keep like trying to pump up real estate or maintain that so that then they could do reassessment and then tax the crap out of people. Like I say, the people who are going to be hurt the most in the coming year, basically within a year to 18 months, which is why you really should get your own personal power pack and stuff, are not going to be the poor, people living at the poverty level, okay? The people who are going to be hurt the most are the people who are there's no real middle class, so to speak, anymore. There's a working class of like wage slaves, people who are actually getting like $15 an hour type of thing now. But, it doesn't really cut it in this kind of inflation and, inflationary environment. Because you have to imagine, with the price of gas alone, if you have to drive, to work, and you have to fill, even if you had some kind of small car that only had a 12-gallon tank, and you were living in like California, to fill up your tank, it would be like $72. And if you were able to commute every week, it took a fill up once a week, because you're on the freeway and you're in this traffic and you're stuck in traffic or blah, blah, blah. You know, that's 72, 144. You know, you're talking about 288, almost $300 a month in gasoline. And that's if you imagine if you have an SUV, it's twice that. You could be spending like, I don't know, let's lowball it, $500 a month on gas. You know, in those states, you know, maybe some other state it might be 400 or even 300. But I mean, that's insane. You know, rents are like out the roof, you know, in major metropolitan areas. And like I say, food prices, lumber prices, and all kinds of other prices. I mean, the internet's $100. Everything's $100 a month, right? So, you know, there's mass insanity has infected the planet. And then, like I say, this weekend here, the weather's going to get down below freezing in the daytime. And at nighttime, it's going to get down into the teens or low 20s. You know, that'll be a week into spring. All right. And there's people going, Mommy, there's planet, it's global warming, climate change. It's like, what the? It's like, hey, kid, well, you know, this house is warm because of fossil fuels, and you better tell your teacher, you know, that she should have the whole class write letters to the White House and Congress and tell them to open up those pipelines because electricity comes from natural gas. And if you've got an HVAC system and an air-blown, you know, system that heats your house and in the summertime cools your house through some air circulation, air-blown HVAC system, you know, that's powered by primarily natural gas. And in many states, particularly in the northern areas around the mid-Atlantic, you know, that your electric car and your, you know, is generated by coal, your electricity. So we've got mass insanity. People have just been like brainwashed. And like I say, the ages of these people, they don't understand. They don't know what happened. Their grandparents, you know, in many cases, their parents or even in some, their grandparents weren't around when Martin Luther King was around. You see? They have no direct connection to anything, right? They've just watched revisionist movies, revisionist histories, you know? So they don't understand, they don't know the story. They don't know real life. IRL. A lot of traffic outside. So, yeah, it's funny that average view duration thing, they just took that right off. Just put just a dash there now. Mass insanity has infected the planet. Don Quixote. Quixote. People are on this quest. The dream, the impossible dream, right? Save America. The cult of personality. I hate to say it, but it's to dream. You're dreaming the impossible dream. The Great Reset is dreaming the impossible dream. It's an impossibility, too. You know, those people are just as warped and lost in their minds as anybody else. Excuse me. Build back better. I'm sorry. You know, I got this.
Really funny. Really funny.
My breakfast was a couple of prunes and a Granny Smith apple. You know. Though, you know, I've kept the weight off I wanted to keep off, so gotten rid of the cereals and the grains. right? That were filled with carbs and sugars. It just put on the weight. If you want to lose weight, like here's like a, talk to your doctor or nutritionist if you have one, right? And make sure it's okay for you, to do anything. Never make a dietary change based on anything you hear, see, or read on the internet or anywhere, all right, without asking your doctor. But what I've found is that not only, and even the .gov sites, you can't trust them because they're hypocrites. 1 week they tell you to do this, then the next week they tell you to do that, right? But ask your doctor about that. Now, in some cases, you're going to find, or I say ask your pharmacist. But sometimes you'll get an intelligent doctor, an intelligent pharmacist who's well read up on the latest papers, peer-reviewed papers from the journals and stuff like that, and has seen these, seen studies that include like 30,000 people and stuff like that. Because unless a study, it's like polls. People talk about polls, but when you read the bottom number, it says 500, maybe a couple of thousand people were polled. Well, in a country of 330 million people, how could you gauge? I don't care what kind of scientific method they claim they're using, all right? Probability and statistics type of nonsense. 330 million people, you cannot make a definitive statement in a poll based on polling 500 or 2,000 people. If you polled 3 million people, which they've never even done that, the 1,000 is the most they ever get to, is in 1,000, right? In a couple thousand, few thousand sometimes. But if you polled 3 million people, that would only be 1% of the U.S. population, which it basically falls within the margin of error itself. So the average poll doesn't even fall within the margin of error. And people are they'll say, the approval rate of such and such, or so many Americans believe, and they say this definitively as if it's fact. And our polls, such and such poll has stated, it's like flipping a coin, man. Right? It's like flipping a coin. But anyway, so when I was talking about dietary stuff, so when they tell you about daily values of carbs, which are basically sugars, and then when you read those labels on food, food boxes, or any kind of packaging now, I think they're supposed to put it on just about everything. And that's like, Food and Drug Administration, okay? The people that are being sued on television, basically every day you see a commercial where some pharmaceutical company is being sued. But you don't see the food companies being sued, which is weird. So they must have a stronger lobby, or the idea with the pharmaceutical companies is that it's the cost of doing business. So they've set aside, so they know their drugs are fatal or will cause all these weird side effects, because it is in the papers. Sometimes you can read that. But the doctor prescribes it anyway. So they get sued, but that's a cost of doing business. They already made hundreds of billions of dollars. So even if they had to kick out hundreds of millions, that's like nothing. It's a small percentage. But if you want to lose weight, talk to your doctor or a PhD nutritionist, or, whatever. You don't really have to talk to a pharmacist, because I'm not talking about taking anything. I'm talking about not taking. What I've found is that if you cut out carbs and sugars, basically processed food, which all contain high amounts of carbs and sugars, the weight will just fall off of you, right? And stop drinking, soft drinks that are just, some soft drink cans, there's so much, if they had to put the amount of sugar in there in sugar because that's why they use this high fructose corn syrup and stuff like that. That they couldn't physically get the grains of sugar in the can. That's how much sugar you're actually drinking when you're drinking a can of soda pop, so to speak. It's like orange juice. It's like sugar. And they tell you to eat a lot of fruits and stuff like that. And fruits are like candy. Fruits are healthy, but you've got to take them in low quantities. You have to be very careful. Unless you are an athlete, unless you are doing a lot of exercising. But the average person that's getting up in the morning, right, takes a shower, gets dressed, if they're a family person, gets their kids ready for school, gets in a car, commutes sitting in that car, gets in a parking lot, goes in, gets in their work carrel, their office, or wherever they are, even a factory, or something, and is either sitting or standing somewhere, and then gets in their car and comes home and orders a take-home pizza or something, right? The kids want mac and cheese, or they eat these processed frozen pizza, or whatever, frozen microwave meals or whatever. That person is, should not be eating any of those processed foods, and a lot of fruits, and high carb and sugar, processed cereals and all that kind of stuff. That's why there's obesity among children and people. Ask your doctor. They'll probably tell you like they've told me. Well, I don't really know about that because they don't know. There are doctors out who study nutrition now, and those are the ones you want to look for. You want to look for an MD who has a background in nutrition. That's the ideal thing if you want to deal with it. Because there's just too much obesity, type 2 diabetes in this country, and heart-related diseases. See, heart-related, people dying of things relating to their heart, problems with their heart. It's a number one killer in America, 650,000 people, according to the CDC statistics. Of course, these are a couple of years old. They don't really update these things, right? So it could be way worse than that, but at least, right? So when I say a couple of million people die a year, 40,000 people a week are dying here of things that are treatable, but the key word is preventable, right? If you weren't people that lobby Congress to keep, to allow this stuff. So in other words, there are certain processed food. No, now. This stream will end shortly unless you restart. See? The truth. They've cut me off. What are you doing, man? My streaming software is happening. What's going on? Just hang in there, folks. Hang in there. They don't want to hear the truth. They're trying to block me. If this break, I hope this doesn't break. 620, 0 kilobytes per second. If you can hear my voice and my face is frozen, that's fine. Hang in there. Kilobytes per second. It's struggling. They're choking this because they don't want you to hear this. And it's funny. Come on, you could do it. YouTube is not receiving enough data to maintain a smooth stream. As such, viewers will experience. All right, I'm way up now. I'm like over the top. Okay, I'm back as far as I could see from my stats. What I'm trying to say is that there are processed foods. I'm going to continue this conversation. There are processed foods approved by the FDA that are on the shelves now. And I'm not going to name particular brands. So, like I say, terms of service go both ways. They have no right to do what they're doing to me. All right? And if this video seems jumpy, it's probably because they cut out a section of it where I started to say this before. They're worse for you than cigarettes. Okay? In other words, there are less people dying of lung cancer, all right, in the aggregate than are dying from complications from having processed food. All right? 40,000 people a week. This is the CDC's list of leading causes of death. You could find that at cdc.gov. I have an excellent connection now. I'm back. Do you understand? I mean, you will have seen that freeze up and jumpiness. This is what's going on in this country. This is censorship. But see, this is the problem they have. When I tell you, terms of service work, it's a two-way street. So all they could do is mess with you. Right? Because there's nothing I'm saying here that is wrong. You see? That isn't straight from the government. Right? So I advise you all to go to Great Solar Stuff and get yourself some power backup stuff. And yeah, you charge it with your credit card, because instead of sending money over to some corrupt country, right? Some war-profiteers have put together. You'd have no idea. Nobody knows what NATO's really up to. Nobody knows what the EU's up to. I told you, EU was Hitler's plan for a greater Germany that he basically finished orchestrating from Argentina. He never died in a bunker. Think that's like a tinfoil hat thing? That stuff's come out. That's come out. People know that. It's not a secret. Coffee tastes burnt. But what I'm trying to say is that in politics, and I guess when they started doing this, I was talking to politics too. In other words, to dream the impossible dream of Build Back Better, which they've gotten rid of already, because they know they can't because the grid's in such bad shape. It's just like I was talking about how polls and all those things are incorrect. When you have 330 million people, well, think about how many miles of wires, high-tension wires, electrical wires there are, the grid, as they call it. It's in total disrepair, just like the sewer lines, the water lines, and even the gas lines. Do you think the elite, talk to a chef, do you think he wants to cook on an electric range? All these great restaurants got gas. All right? They want flame, The point of the matter is, you've got a country, the United States, the former United States, which is basically half the country is cold weather, experiences cold winters. Always has. Like I say, there's no indigenous people here because, 10, 12,000 years ago, the whole upper part of this country was covered with ice, like a mile high. Like, do they teach you that in school? No, they don't teach kids that in school. People don't know anything. Everything you know is wrong, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's why it's game over. What you need to do is take care of you and yours, your family, your friends, find community and all that kind of stuff. Life is a struggle. My life sucks, man. You know, I'm struggling.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I live at the poverty line and barely get by, and I'm out of salad and dark greens, which are healthy. And I was I lost weight. I'm down at like my ideal weight almost. Like actually I'm really in a good position. You know? That if I actually too bad it's going to be raining for the next 4 days, which is like, it almost makes you want to believe, like I said, we suffer in worlds we create in our own minds, but it's like, I'm not really one of those people who believes in the life as a simulation thing, but almost like, like these ancient texts, that, life is a dream within a dream within a dream of some, alleged deity of some kind in Eastern religions and weird stuff like that. But I mean, which is pretty much close to the simulation theory, right? But I don't buy into that necessarily because I buy into something called the unknowable. I've talked about this before. We have to accept the unknowable. It's like the Big Bang Theory isn't about the singularity, like there was a dot and it exploded and then the universe expanded. The universe is expanding in all directions and it's unknowable how it's expanding. Like, because, in other words, it's not like it seems to be expanding in all direction, but we're part of that expansion. Right? But what directions is it expanding from? Well, it seems to be expanding all around us. So there are so many unknowables, I mean, on a simplistic level, it's like, calculate pi, things, infinity, right? The distance between two integers, right? The space on a ruler, how small can you go between 1 inch and 2 inches, right? You got a 1/2 inch and then a half of a 1/2 inch, into a quarter and then an eighth and then a 16th, right? 32nd, 64th, 72nd, 144th. Do you see what I mean? We don't understand, until it, now you're dealing with this, quantum. And then quantum physics is this whole other thing with these guys they can't agree on anything. Then you've got these people at the Hadron Collider that are talking about, insane things that they're discovering in colliding particles and looking at things. And then there are people that talk about this slit experiment where things are viewed in a certain way and then, but when they're not viewed, it's another thing. Then there's people that say, oh, the slit experiment's flawed. Then there's people that say there's string theory and things are vibrations, but then again, there's other people that talk about multiple dimensions, frequencies, vibrations. You could get into, Nikola Tesla's stuff about, resonance, vibration. The numbers 3, 6, 9 are the key to the understanding the universe. You can put a antenna in the, in your backyard up just in the sky about, 12 feet. And at the edge of it have a wire and have that copper wire frayed. And then have that wire come down and put it up to like a voltmeter, and you will actually get from the sky, from the air or the ether, whatever. You will be able to detect voltage as long as the other, in other words, that's the positive, and in the ground you stick a copper grounding rod, and that's your negative or ground. and you put the two of those together and you will produce like, a minimal of millivolts, but you actually might produce, 1.5 volts or something like that. I've experimented with weird things like that. So there's energy. When Tesla, the original, some people think that Elon Musk is Tesla. They don't understand. That's a funny thing. But when Nikola Tesla was building that big thing, which basically was what I'm describing, but in, a ginormous version. Westinghouse, I guess, was funding it. But when he found out it was free energy, he goes, if I can't charge for it, I'm going to, take the money out of the project, and they destroyed it. But the idea is the bigger you would get with this thing, the more energy you could just draw out of the ether and the earth. Remember, the earth is a dynamo. It's a spinning planet, right? So it's creating electricity, magnetic field, and remember, we have a magnetic field. So, we use electromagnets, right? That's how they generate electricity, right? Or they have spinning dynamos through through dams that, that's hydroelectric power. I don't mean to blow your mind. I don't want to get into all kinds of weird, electromagnetism and the ether and where electricity comes from and stuff like that. But the idea is that all of these concepts are out there, and these things are just out of the public eye, and weird people talk about them, but they're almost they're intentionally mislead people. It's like the people that do these, they call conspiracy theorists. It's like half of them are, they destroy the truth because they go too far out. You see? And so that, instead of just sticking to the facts, to the experiment, to the real, to the concrete. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm a human being. But anyway, we suffer from mass insanity. People just don't know what's going on. And, it's like I have up there resist media and politics, and I have ignore the media down below. I almost don't need the resist media and politics there so much. It's almost out of, the exclamation point is just too over the top, I got to get rid of that. I had to get rid of that exclamation point. That was bothering me for a while. There was some other idea I had this morning, of replacing that with, but I forgot. Should have wrote it down. I was worried about my cat, so. Yeah, think Don Quixote and you'll have a much better understanding of the world today. So when you get caught up in this cult of personality and these politicians, these guys that, are telling you to dream the impossible dream, and they could save America or this great reset or some kind of utopia they're going to build, or like I say, they got rid of the Build Back Better, but it's still, it's still within their ranks. They're talking about this kind of stuff. It's just mass insanity that's infected these people. They don't know anything. Most of these people are under the age of 45, 40-ish. Like I say, they don't go far enough back that even their parents aren't aware of real history firsthand. See, if you haven't experienced a thing, right? Like I keep saying, if you've seen what I've seen with these eyes, if you haven't been there, you don't know. You see? You don't know. A picture can be photoshopped. Someone can tell you a fanciful story, a believable story. It's like I talked about yesterday or the day before, the tricksters, tricks, magic, right? I was talking about a card trick someone taught me. And even the person who taught me, he was taught by another person, but none of us knew how it worked. But it was like, it seemed like it was magic, but it was just a trick. It was just, there was some kind of mathematical, scientific thing behind it, explanation behind it. It wasn't magic. Or like I say, if it was magic, as we call magic, it's that whole idea that any kind of technology beyond our comprehension, we would conceive as magic. But the reality is, it just is something beyond our comprehension. It's like talking about the unknowable. Don't, try to explain the unknowable because it's unknowable. We don't understand the universe. We don't understand the world we live in. We're not going to create a quantum computer that's going to somehow solve pi, right? You see? There have been so many papers. A lot of people believe in this dark matter, dark energy, and stuff like that. There have been so many papers that have disproved and gone against that. But the average person still talks about it. I watch things all the time where people still talk about black holes and they try to say, oh, well, there's evidence. We've actually photographed one. It's all theoretical. We don't even know if there's a thing, if they are black holes. There's a whole school of thought of serious scientists with serious data, right? And papers that they've produced that talks about an electric universe. We know that the planets, the solar systems and the sun itself, right? We know that everything is controlled, that our climate is really controlled by the sun and that there's magnetic fields, that our magnetic field is weakening, that the geological or I got myself all in a tizzy. The geographical South Pole is not the same as the magnetic South Pole. So the magnetic South Pole has left the continent of Antarctica, just like the magnetic North Pole is pretty much, Siberia bound. And there's something called the South Atlantic Anomaly. And that in the North Atlantic, the conveyor that makes Europe and northern latitudes warmer than they should be is basically weakening. And the entire Earth's magnetic field has been weakening. And that's why we're seeing such anomalies with, things like the jet stream and stuff like that. And migratory patterns of animals and weird things going on and stuff. A lot of that's mostly related to the sun, and the sun is going through some serious changes, and we're going through cycles. There are cycles that are longer than we can imagine. There are weather cycles that are only like 30 and 40 or 50 years, in length. Some are like 100 years. Some are 400 years. Some are 1,000, some are 6,000, some are 12,000. You see, you could research all of these things, but there are many things that are unknowable. There are some things that anthropologists, archaeologists, geologists, that they can actually unearth and study. There are other things that are just totally mind-blowing and they're unknowable. There are people who get high and they think they've got things figured out and, go on DMT trips. I don't know. All I could tell you is that mass insanity has infected the planet, this country particularly. Western civilization definitely is warped. People in a lot of other countries, people in South America, Africa, Southeast Asia and stuff, A lot of those people are just trying to get through the day and live. In fact, quite frankly, most people even around, they just want health and happiness. Right? That's all. Those are the broad strokes of life. Health and happiness. And that really should be what you concern yourself with. Take care of yourself. Take care of your health and try to be happiness, or happy, and bring happiness to other people. And find happiness and things that make you happy. That's it, health and happiness. I mean, those seem to be that's the meaning of life. The secret of life is health and happiness. And and it's a struggle. And that's the whole idea of this Don Quixote idea, was basically, this quest, this struggle, but it was a fantasy. It was insanity, right? And it didn't have a happy ending. Okay? So, accept the unknowable and look to the concrete, to the things that, really matter. And, it's funny because, the idea of health and happiness are both physical and can even be looked at metaphysical. So it's not, whether you're religious, spiritual, or just into some kind of metaphysics or some kind of thing like that. The idea, it's all about health and happiness, And we live on a beautiful world, and it's a beautiful planet. And why the hell are we destroying it by putting these big white fans all over the place and solar panels that don't do anything? Look, if you want a solar panel in your house or on, it's great. That's get off the grid, right? Because you can't trust the frickin' grid. Or get yourself some backup power. You could see the light has come up on the outside view there. There's a person over there walking a dog. And someone is petting that dog. I know that woman. I don't know her personally, but she used to walk in front of my house, but for some reason she doesn't anymore. I don't know why. It's weird. I think the witch lady next door has people have associated me with her because I used to mow this woman's lawn, and I was a nice person because I'm a good neighbor. I'm nice to anybody. But I think when I kind of dissed her in the sense that I don't want somebody saying the N-word over my fence or, being that kind of, burning rubber, like tires and plastic bags and stuff. And I basically built up the fence and, But, this winter when it snowed, I've taken my shovel and I've snowed straight down to, the street in front of her house and the other neighbor's house who I don't even know. I'll do that. I'll still do that, even though. But, it's funny. I've noticed that on a day when I didn't go out to shovel or was a little bit late or something, or if she was out, she would just shovel right to her property line. Right. People. Evil, hateful, jealous people. People with mass insanity sitting around watching YouTube and weird network TV and cable TV and reading these weird articles and papers and all this stuff. Lies, half-truths, deceptions, school systems, teachers teaching stuff they should know better about. I mean, maybe some of them know they're teaching lies and indoctrinating children, conditioning them. I don't know. Or maybe they're like I say, if they're at a certain age, even their parents weren't cognizant of the truth. So they're teaching this revisionist history that these administrators are trying to do to bring about some kind of authoritarian state totalitarianism. Whatever it is, it's not good. All right? You know, it's not leading to our health and happiness. And that's what you should be concerned with. That's all I'm concerned with. And I don't know about you, health and happiness, man. That's all I'm worried about the health and happiness of my cat, the health and happiness of my mother, the health and happiness of me, and the health and happiness of all of you. So I wish you all the best, okay? Have a great day, Best of days you can have.
Good morning.
And visit my site, ROCKFLUX.com, or Great Solar Stuff. Grab my book, Then What? It's only like $9.95 on YouTube. Or, I mean, not YouTube, on Amazon.com. Get the print version. And, get one of my shirts or hoodies or some kind of thing that has one of these sayings on it, because it's, get the word out. Support this site. Help support me. I'm living at the poverty level. I am not monetized. And these things, I don't own these companies. These are just websites that link to like Amazon or someplace that might give me a 25 cents. When you listen to my songs, I got 50 songs out there. When you listen on Spotify, you know what I get? Sometimes you get a fraction of a cent or something like that. But, every penny helps. I'm lucky if I get 50 cents from a sale of a book or some kind of thing. Anyway, take care of yourself, and hopefully I'll talk to you again.